Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Type A Plus podcast. I am thrilled today to introduce you all to a card carrying member of the Type A Plus community, Amanda Jefferson. Amanda and I met very early on in my entrepreneurial journey at a Well Struck event in Philadelphia, and I have been amazed by her intelligence, her poise, and her elegant sense of style ever since. Fast forward to 2020, and we were paired together for the first official Well Struck Mastermind. Since then, we have watched one another's businesses grow, pivot, and change, and learned from each other as well. Today, she is a co host of the Enoughish podcast, and she is here today because she has an incredible trick for email inbox management that absolutely changed my life, and I hope it can change yours too. So, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Beth. It's so good to be here. And I love that you said I have elegant style. That
Oh,
is so
yeah. You
nice.
always have looked so, like, put together. I remember when you came into the Well-Struck room, you just had such a sense of, like, confidence, and you always look very, yeah, elegant. Like, I think, like, French woman
Aw.
style is what I would say.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I love that. I just finished watching The Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
Oh,
I don't know if you've seen that, and I'm obsessed with this. I want to start dressing like 60s,
you
Beth.
totally could. I
Yeah.
absolutely love Queen's Gambit. It is such a good show, and, uh, I Anya Taylor-Joy is just
I
so brilliant
know.
in it. You just
I
can't take your eyes off.
know.
Because I remember when it first came out, I thought, "All right, a show about chess, I don't really know," but
Right.
they made it very, very interesting and
I know.
riveting.
I just finished it. I don't know what to do with my life now.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and so tell us a little bit more. I know I touched a little bit on your podcast, but tell us more about yourself, your company, what you do, and also your new podcast.
Yes, so the podcast, I can start there because it's also I'm a co-host with another well strucker in the well struck community, Brooke Forey, and it's called the Good Enough Ish podcast. And we're about 20 episodes in, and we're having so much fun. It's just really all about how to be what we call like good enough ish in everything, work and life. We're juggling careers and families and all kinds of stuff. So, really, very similar to your podcast, we're just looking to offer people tips and stories and anecdotes and banter just to make life a little bit more joyful, a little bit easier. So you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And then, yeah, what I do in my other free time when I'm not working on the podcast. So I am a KonMari consultant, which means I was certified by Marie Kondo, and I help people one-on-one in their homes declutter, organize, and simplify. I'm also a KonMari instructor, so I'm like an old head now, and I do all the training for all the incoming trainees, most of the training for them. And then I have an online course called Organized Every Day, and I do a lot of speaking, and my speaking is usually about how to quit the shoulds and live more joyfully. So that's a lot about me. And I live in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which I love, with my daughter Isabel, my husband Fernando, and we have a lot of pets everywhere. It's like a farm around here.
I love that, and I mean, I can't say enough great things about the Good Enough Ish podcast. I've been a fan since you guys started, and, the listeners don't know, but Amanda helped me actually be able to have the confidence and the knowledge to do this podcast. So, Amanda, I'm so glad that you're here today, and I really love your podcast as well because like mine, but also a little bit different. I feel like for me, type A plus also means struggling with perfectionism.
Yeah.
And I love that your podcast is not the antidote to perfectionism, but it's that little breath of fresh air. It's that little break that you can give yourself. And I absolutely love it. And I think it's a great supplement to this podcast.
Yeah, I love hearing from our listeners. They're always like, me too, me too. They're like shouting into the radio, me too, me too. It's just fun to talk about things that people can really relate to and not feel like they're alone in dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your email trick. So for a little background for our listeners, during a Well-Struck Mastermind, I think it was last year, Amanda mentioned this trick for sorting her emails. And all of us were just inundated with inbox. We were all talking about the fact that we couldn't get out of our inboxes and actually work on our business. And this trick has not only helped me, but it has helped. I have used it to help clients. I've used it to help just fellow entrepreneurs and people that I know in business. So, what made you want to find a solution for sorting and responding to your emails?
Mostly because I was just overwhelmed and inundated with it too. Like, what is that quote? Necessity is the mother of invention, or something like that. I just felt myself always buried in my inbox. And so most of us use Gmail, but even if you don't use Gmail, a lot of the tips that I'll share can be used in that system as well. But I just was like, I love software and I love systems and I love figuring out how to make them work for me. So I'm like, there's a must be a better way. So I think the trick is really just understanding some of the key features that Gmail has and then using them to your advantage.
Oh,
So,
I love that, optimizing systems and making things more efficient, which is one of my favorite words. So let's outline the methodology behind it. So I would love to, if you could share your screen, we can maybe include a
sure.
little video for the listeners and teach us your magic.
Okay, that sounds good. And then what I might do is actually do a split screen so that people can see my kind of notes as well. Okay, so can you see kind of a split screen here, my notes and the Gmail?
I can. I love it.
Okay, perfect. So I'll focus over here a little bit. So the first thing that I like to do is check the number and then make it fun, set a goal, set a timer. Like, what is it that we're dealing with? I lately have been much better about being on top of my emails. So right now I only have 25. So that's not bad. But if you have 2000, fine, write down 2000 and then ask yourself, okay, can I spend 25 minutes on this? Or could I try to see how many I can get through by the time the laundry is done or whatever it is, right? So set a goal, set a timer. Could I do 4 songs? How many emails could I get through in 4 songs? Because the trick is we don't want to start going one by one by one by one and answering or dealing with. We're going to do a really quick sort first. So we want to sort before you answer. Okay. And we're going to talk in a minute about what it means to sort and how you use labels and things like that.
I
But I
think
also,
we should, sorry, I think we
yes,
should pause there because I think the instinct is if it's unread in my inbox, I need to answer it immediately, right?
yes,
And I think that this is the key. The sorting before you answer is so key because you don't even have to spend time thinking about what the email is actually about. You just have to categorize it.
correct. Because right now, say this number did say 250. I would feel like, oh my gosh, one by one by one getting through 250. But when you do the sort, that 250, and I'm going to show you how I organize my inbox, becomes, oh, actually, I only have 7 emails that I need to respond to. And then all of a sudden, your brain can process that, and it's so much easier to do it. Absolutely. So, has that been what's been really like helpful for you, Beth? The sorting before the answering?
Yes, especially if you're having a conversation back and forth, and not necessarily that there's emotion behind it, but that you have to prepare an answer for it. And so many times, the instinct in the past for me was, oh, an urgent email came in. That means I have to answer it. And I had to keep telling myself, literally, I tell myself, email doesn't mean emergency mail. Like you could
Correct.
take a second, you could take a second to pause and just that act of sorting, again, it's almost like that deep breath and allowing your giving yourself a break.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, the sort before you answer. I also have here take the time to unsubscribe ruthlessly. So for example, this thing right here, I do not want this. This is like a political email. So there's a couple different ways. I can just click this little checkbox here. I'm just going to move my Zoom banner. And there's a couple of different options. You can either say report spam if it's truly like spam that I have gotten that I never signed up for. In this case, I think this is the case. I'm going to click report spam, and then that will tell Gmail, don't send me that anymore. Put that in spam if it comes. Okay. So I want to explain labels. Labels are basically just folders. So these are all of the folders that I have in my email, and it's probably too many, but these are basically things that I say, okay, I just want to file these away, right? And I use this at symbol at the beginning of the folders that I want to rise to the top. And these change. So, like, for example, at tiny habits was something that I wanted to have at the top, but I don't necessarily anymore. So I can edit it, I can remove that at, and then it's going to send it down to the bottom, right? So these are kind of the ones that are the most important to me right now. So I always recommend having a sort of reply slash do something folder, which is what you can see here. So that's saying to me, those are the things, those are the, maybe you started with 250. Those are the 7 things that you end up with that actually need something to happen with them. And I also really like having an online orders folder. I think it's just so great to, be able to pop, things as they come in, because you are a lot of times wanting to track it or look for the confirmation code or something didn't show up, right? So the whole idea of folders and this idea of having reply, I just want to make sure that I give credit. I learned this from an awesome productivity coach named Lindsay Satterfield, and she's based in DC, and we can link to her website. And she has an awesome course called Workflow Mastery. She is the mastermind behind this idea of having a folder that's called reply or respond, is what she calls it in her case.
Love that. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely link in the show notes.
Perfect. So I also use filters to label things automatically. So you can see, like, this Amazon email, for example, has the online orders filter already assigned to it. So every time I get an email from Amazon, it's going to put it in my online orders folder. Or in the case of this email, this is a newsletter that I get, and it's from this person, and I like them to be grouped together, and it's about my daughter. So I can actually assign 2 labels for that. So you can go up to settings, or actually, let me show you an easier way. So say, for example, this email, I wanted it to be automatically filtered every time. I would go in and I would click on filter messages like these, and then it's automatically going to pop in from this person, and I could click, and you can already see it's identified, it's found all of these. So I can say create filter, and then you can tell it all kinds of stuff. Skip the inbox, mark it as red, give it a star, but I usually just choose a label. So I could create a new label. Say I wanted to create a label for everything that I get from Martha Beck. So I'm going to create that. And I can also click here, also apply filter to 20 matching conversations, and it's automatically going to create a new folder for Martha Beck. And every time I get an email from Martha Beck, it's going to be labeled as such. So I love using filters because it just gets the system working for you and automatically doing things.
Absolutely. You just saved yourself so much time there.
Right. Right. Because a lot of times I am looking, like, say I love Martha Beck's newsletters, but I haven't had a chance to catch up on them. I can archive them as I go, which I'll teach you how to do, but then I can go back and click through them and find them. You can also color code. So you can see, like, Isabel has a pretty color, online orders has a pretty color. So you can do that by going to, actually, how do I do the colors? Label color at the top and create a color for that, which is fun.
There you go. We love color coding on this podcast. We already talked about that in one of our episodes. So this is another way for you to, at a glance, categorize and be able to find things very quickly.
Yes, absolutely. So there's sort of 2 options in Gmail. There's a delete, which is like, I never want to see this email again, or archive, which I really think of more as filing. So this Amazon email already has the online orders to it. So I know that if I file it, archive it, I'm going to look over on online orders and it's going to be there, right? So those are all of my online orders. You can even get fancier and, like, put a star next to the ones that you're still waiting on or something like that if you want to get fancier.
The archive blew my mind as well, because if you recall, I thought that deleted it forever. So that completely blew my mind.
Yeah. So essentially with the sorting, you just want to go through and say, okay, so I do a lot of, like, bulk. So this, it's like, okay, I don't need to read that. I don't need to read that. I don't need to read that. So, like, I'm not going to unsubscribe from this because I do, in theory, like to get emails from them, but I don't necessarily want to read this one. I don't need that. I don't need that. I already read that. And so I'll just click here. In this case, I would probably, like, this one I might want to archive. So the rest of these I want to delete. This guy I want to archive. So I'm just kind of going through one by one. Now, this one is suspicious because I don't remember actually ordering anything from the swim outlet. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to give it the label of reply, do something. If you want reply always to be at the top, you could give it like 2 ats. and then it's going to go ahead and go to the top, right? So you just learned something, didn't you, Beth? Yeah.
I'm writing that down.
Or you could do numbers, you could do like a 1, 2, 3 or something like that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go through, and so like this, I'm going to delete this, I'm going to put in online orders, and that's what you do. I really like this view of important and unread, all the reply do something ones, and everything else, so that I can, when I get done, sort of say, okay, so when you get done, this should be empty, important and unread, and you should only have stuff here. Now, what important is these little flags. So this is my way of telling Gmail that this is something really important, right? So if every time I get something from this person, I put it up there. Now, it didn't go up there because it's not unread. But if I marked it as unread, then it would pop its way up there. So let me just refresh, and you can see it up there, right? You can also use starred if for some reason you have like concert tickets for this Friday and you want them to be able to show up really easily.
I
And then
have done that.
you've done that, right? Like, or ones that like, say somebody sent you a really detailed email that you already replied to, but you just need to star it because you're still working through the things that they talked about. So let me show you how to set up your inbox. So you go to the little cog and then see all settings. And then you're going to go to inbox. So you can see that there's a few different options: inbox type, important first, unread first, starred first. I use priority inbox, and that gives you 4 choices for what you want. So this is where I can say, okay, I want important unread. I want you to show up to this number. So you can kind of customize it. But I think the key is, if you do want to use starred, make sure that that's an option. And if you do want to use this all reply, you can do that by selecting that as an option as well. So I really like that setup. It just works for my brain.
No, it's
Um,
perfect. I think that this really changes, again, it changes the way you even look at your inbox or approach your inbox, because almost the everything else now, not that it doesn't matter, but if you've done all of your work to do the filters and the important and the stars, you should have everything where you need it to be. And that should be something that you should just be able to sort later.
yes, yes, absolutely. And if I'm really overwhelmed in my inbox, it's kind of like, okay, everything down there, I'll deal with that later in the week or something like that. The other thing that I really like is installing this little extension that's called Boomerang. The nice thing about Boomerang, you can schedule a send, which is something that you can do inside of Gmail as well. So like, a lot of times if you're catching up on emails at 10:30 at night, but you don't necessarily know people to know that, you can schedule a send so that it goes at 8 o'clock in the morning. But what I really like about it is, say, for example, I replied to this person, I can tell Boomerang to return this conversation to my inbox. Let me see if I can. If I don't get a reply in 4 days or something like that. And this is so that's really nice. So that I don't have to. So then it'll put it at the top of my inbox and remind me. You said you wanted a reminder, and you haven't heard back from this person.
I love that.
So
A
I really
system
like that.
within a system. It's almost like, I mean, HubSpot does that, but HubSpot is not a free extension. So this is great to have it right in your Gmail.
Yes. So Boomerang does have a few premium features, but to do that, you don't need it. And I think that's the best feature that it has, is reminding if you haven't heard back from them. So yeah, that's basically the idea that you want to do. You want to, get your folders organized, get your inbox organized in a way that you can easily see everything, and then just do Beth's favorite, which is sort before you answer.
Yes, Amanda, this has been so helpful. I know that it helped me. I know that it will help our listeners as well. Thank you so much for being here today. This was a lot of fun. I feel like I could talk to you forever.
I know it's very geeky that I could talk about email all day, but love
Well,
it.
so could I. So it's perfect. So tell everybody how to get in touch with you and how to get in touch with your podcast and your company and everything that you're doing.
Yes, so you can find me at Indigo Organizing, www.indigoorganizing.com. To learn about my speaking, you can go to amandajefferson.com. My Instagram is at hey.amandaj. And you can find my podcast at Good Enoughish.
Thank you. Hey, Amanda J, for being here today. And I hope everyone listens to the Good Enough Ish podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
Bye.